Hello and welcome to another episode of Ashes to Go. I am your host, Redbird, and with me is BDLG. Bordy, how you doing tonight, bud?
Doing great, man. Couldn't be doing any better, dude. How about you?
I'm doing great. Fantastic. Let's talk about Ashes of Creation. We have a good show for you guys tonight. We are going to go over some of the... let's see. We got a new teaser on the mount side of things that looks like it may be part of the upcoming backer package. We're going to talk a little bit about that tonight. And then we're going to go into a Reddit post that kind of commented on the size of the map and compared it to some other games that we know and are familiar with. And then we're going to kind of go into a discussion about map size and environment and fast travel and all of those things that kind of create or add to the environment or the playing experience in an MMO. So first, Bordy, we do want to mention this. If you haven't followed the Studio Loot Twitter account yet, please do that. That is how all of the announcements when the show goes live, when the podcast is up and available for download, when we get the VOD up on YouTube, all of our other content as well is announced on that Twitter. So go follow that. We do have other Twitters for all of our other, creations or websites or podcasts, but we use that account to stay active because it's just three of us. So, it's impossible to keep up on social media. So go follow that. We would appreciate that. Another thing that we want to mention too is we are doing the guild sign up thing over on Ashes Fans. We already have that available to you guys. If you want to promote your guild for Ashes of Creation, you can create an account over there and get your guild name and your population and what you're looking for and kind of what your guild is kind of interested in or what you're going to focus on in the game. Go to that over at ashesfans.com. And we might promote your guild on the podcast, which is exciting, Brody, right?
Yeah, absolutely, man. I'm ready to do that. I'm ready to get some guilds out there. You know what I mean?
Yeah, we have a few over there already. So we'll probably start that as soon as next week. We'll see, right? I mean, we haven't really pinpointed an exact date, but next week is as fine as any other week, I'm sure.
Yeah, sounds great.
All right, and a quick housekeeping note. Please leave a 5-star rating on Apple iTunes if you guys are listening over there on the Apple Podcast app. It does help us out in searchability. As far as promotion on the Apple side of things, it's big for podcasting. You guys are probably familiar with that if you're a podcast listener. So go leave a 5-star rating, please, and thank you. All right, and last reminder, and then we're going to get into the discussion, of course. The Q&A live stream for this month or the month's end is on Wednesday, September 30th at 11 Pacific Daylight Savings Time. Bordy, what time is that?
1 o'clock, man. I knew you were going to ask
me,
bro. I'm on it now.
Yeah,
don't worry, man. After that whole time zone debacle we had that one night, I can't let that happen anymore. We're good. I got it.
All right, good. All right, that's good to know, man. I can rely on you for time zone information now. That's good. That's good stuff right there. All right, so Steven, as he is accustomed to doing, leaked another image of a mount. Now, this mount, we don't know if it's tied to a backer package or anything like that, but it just so happened that the last time that he leaked a mount, was the mount for the next backer package, Bordy. So if you go over to Reddit, our favorite website on the internet, and you go over there to the Ashes of Creation subreddit, you will see that he has shared what looks to be like a ram bear mixture. It's a pretty dope looking mount, man. It's got obviously like a tribal type feel to it with the bones and leather saddle on there. So, dude, this is a pretty cool looking hybrid animal over here, Bordy. Does this pique your interest at all when it comes to things you're interested in purchasing?
It does, actually. I like, but every one of them do. Every time I see one, I'm like, oh, this might be it. But this one, everybody's saying it's a bear ram. I don't think it's a bear ram, dude. I think it's a lion ram. Look at the tail. If you scroll through the pictures, you can see the tail. There's like a mane. You see the mane, and then there's a long tail. Bears don't have a tail like that, dude. You know, I think it's more of like the body looks more like a lion to me, dude. A lion ram mix.
Yeah, so, I mean, I got to get behind you on this one, Bordy, because that is the lion's tail for sure. or it at least appears that way. And then it does have a little bit of scruff on the mane. Could be a hyena. I don't know. Maybe a goat hyena mixture. You know what I mean?
Maybe all of the above. A bear,
dude, who
lion,
knows, man?
ram.
It's its own little thing, right?
I like it though. Whatever it is, it's really cool.
It is a really cool looking mount. They do a great job. The design team does for all of these, backer package mounts and boats or houses or equipable items. All these things are designed really, really well. I hope they continue to obviously put out this high quality gear. And me and you were both on the same page with the cash shop. People kind of get tilted when they just continue to show things to buy inside of the game when the game isn't, like, we don't assume that the game is anywhere close to releasing at this time. But I have no problem as long as these are just, again, physical appearance items that don't affect gameplay. They're just cool things that if you want, you can have, type of thing.
Yeah, absolutely, man. Yep, I'm all about that, dude.
Yeah, and obviously it seems like they always kind of announce the backer package or tease the entire package at the end of the month, so we're getting close to that. They'll probably, I would assume, do that on the live podcast, or not podcast, excuse me, the live stream that they do on the 30th. I'm sure that they'll show all of the items inside of that upcoming backer package. So we look forward to that as well. Maybe just a ton of lion goats. Lyotes. What is it? Guyon?
I don't know, man.
It's like a.
I don't know, man. Yeah. I don't think what you're trying to do is going to happen right now.
Well, I'm not trying to do anything, Bordy. I'm just trying to figure out, like a liger, dude. I'm trying to give this thing a formal name, so when we do refer.
Well, I posted on Reddit that it was a goat bear. A boat. Nobody bid on that though, like a bear goat boat. Okay, but
yeah. So you see, you were part of that.
I was trying, man. I was
part
trying
of that blasphemy that called it a bear. See, dude, I
did. I did at first because I didn't scroll through the rest of the images. I did not do that in the beginning.
Yeah,
the paws look like a bear from the front, but it's clearly the tail is not a bear tail.
Big mammals have a lot of the same looking paws. So. Yeah, dude. Who knows what this is, but it's cool looking. Let's just settle on that for sure. All right, Bordy. So we have another pretty interesting Reddit post. One of the users, we'll give him a little bit of shout out. JIP the Chip over on Reddit posted a map size comparison to Skyrim and GTA 5. So I found that interesting that those are the two games that he chose and not like another MMO like World of Warcraft or something like that. But he laid these maps side by side on the Reddit post. It's a pretty cool post. If you guys go check that out. Yeah, dude. So, we're going to have a discussion here tonight about map size, fast travel, things like that can really add to the feel or the gaming, the gaming experience inside of an MMO, and kind of talk about, what our thoughts, what they've already kind of mentioned about what they're going to do about fast travel, and mounts and map size and all of those different things inside of Ashes of Creation, and kind of throw in our 2 cents here about what direction we would like to see them head in or stay in, or if the decisions they've kind of already announced kind of line up to what we think or we have experienced being successful inside of an MMO. So, Bordy, first and foremost, what's your thoughts on the actual size of the map in Ashes of Creation?
It's enormous, man. It looks crazy big. It's absolutely huge compared to those. I mean, GTA 5 is not a small map. The GTA 5 map is pretty dang large, man. I mean, it's bigger than the Skyrim map, but it's like this is what is 12.7 and 10 kilometers wide. This is double that or more than double almost in width. It's crazy, man. It's huge, and I love that, dude. I think having humongous maps in MMOs, especially one that is probably going to be, I would think that Ashes is hyped up as it is going to have tons and tons of players, so it's going to be really awesome to see an enormous map to explore. I love it. I like really big maps in MMOs. It's awesome.
Yeah, so for anybody who refuses to use Reddit, the map, if you lay the Skyrim map on top of this, it's about, like at least 8 times bigger than the Skyrim map as far as like land mass goes. Obviously, there's ocean or water separating the two maps, of course. But if you were to lay that continent of Skyrim on top of all of the map, it does appear that this is going to be, significantly, like square footage wise, significantly larger than that. Of course, you would expect that in an MMO type of setting, where there's going to be multiple players in the game interacting and moving through the world. One thing I will mention, and this is something just in the topic of map sizes, you have to be careful in an MMO, especially if you're going to have server type of play style or player segregation, because if your player population isn't large enough, and we know how Ashes of Creation is being ambitious, like PvP and node management and living like that. If your map is too large and your player base is not large enough, then that world starts to feel dead, and the choices or the interactions between players starts to feel, not as frequent, and then you start to, obviously kind of lose that whole appeal of an MMO. Sabordi, any worries here about like the map size and maybe how that might affect the overall feel of when you're playing the game?
Yeah, I do have a worry about the map size. I should have prefaced earlier, I do love big maps in MMOs. I think they're amazing, but only if there is not a lot of dead space in the map. I've played some MMOs before in the past that the map was awesome. It was very big. The environment was really cool, but there was nothing there. You ran from one town to the other, and you wouldn't see a creature. You didn't really see a lot of anything, really. You just see an environment. There was nothing to interact with, nothing to do. There weren't a lot of NPCs. And to your point, in this particular MMO, there wasn't a lot of players playing either. So it did make the map feel rather dead. And that was a very, very big turnoff to me for the MMO. And it's almost the thing that made me just quit playing that game altogether. So I hope that in Ashes, they at least, I think even without a ton of players, now Ashes needs a ton of players because of the way the node system works. So for sure, theirs would hinder them to have a very large map with not enough players to support it, like you said. But also, they just need to make sure there is enough things to interact with along the way. So if you're not seeing players, you're at least doing something, and the world feels alive even without a ton of players on. You know what I mean? Like, it's not fun to be in a dead looking map in an MMO at all.
Right. And to your point, that's when it kind of becomes like, less of a feature and more of like a detriment when your player base starts to dwindle. And then, it just seems like, man, I got to like constantly move. And we'll talk about how we fast travel and move across the map later on in the podcast. But, it does make it very difficult to like, get motivated to see or explore the world when they're when the world is large enough to where you start to feel like you're alone and not getting to play the game with friends and stuff. And that's something I've always cited about one of the reasons, or one of the appeals to MMO to me, is playing with other people and experiencing like the competitiveness and obviously like PvP is something that me and you like basically hinge our decision on what game we play, how good the PvP is or what kind of PvP the game offers. And without, that large player population or a density, let's say large player density on a map, it makes it difficult to experience those, that open world PvP gameplay.
Absolutely. We've played other games in the past, Red, where we got online and we ran around for hours looking for PvP, and there wasn't anything there.
Right.
So it's like, you don't want to do that. If you're getting on and you want a PvP, you want to have people there. And if the map is too big, then you're right. Then you can't go find those open world encounters, which really sucks. So I don't think Ashes will have that problem, at least not initially. I think there's going to be an incredible ton, of influx of players to the game, I would imagine. So I don't think it'll have that issue initially, but it is something to be concerned with later on down the road for sure, if they can't maintain or sustain that player base, which hopefully they won't have a problem doing that, And Deathwish made a great comment in chat too about how he hopes there's not a lot of copy paste world structures, because there are a lot of games that whenever they have these big maps like this, they do tend to just put these copy paste world structures in. And so whenever you travel from the northern part of the map all the way down to the southern part of the map, you see the same structures over and over and over, and there's no real point of interest in the game. So there's no real reason for you to go explore. That takes away a lot of the mystery of the map too. And I know one of the things a lot of MMO players like to do is explore the map, man. I love to go into an MMO and explore the map and find new, really cool landmarks.
Mhm.
And hopefully they won't have those, meaning a copy paste landmarks. I want them to have unique, very interesting landmarks and points of interest on the map. And with a map this large, that's a lot of work, man.
Right, exactly. So let's get into the next topic about fast travel and how it kind of compares to other MMOs, inside of the genre. Now, these are some pretty important points, that we will kind of mention here about fast travel, or at least the choices they've made within the game of fast travel. So fast travel is very limited in Ashes of Creation, which we can kind of go into this here after, we kind of mention what their choices. So we mean fast travel, or generally the term fast travel refers to the ability to kind of click on a map and travel there at whim. So like maybe they charge you a certain resource like gold or Azoth or whatever the certain resource inside of the game is to allow you to travel from place to place rapidly or instantaneously, kind of like a Hearthing in WoW or whatever you want to call it. So that's what we're talking about with fast travel. So they have limited fast travel inside of Ashes of Creation to basically only scientific nodes, and we've kind of went over. If you haven't listened to our previous episode or previous podcast on nodes, go check that out. That will explain scientific nodes and how they plan to use fast travel within those particular nodes. But generally, the game, how you will travel without, aside from just using your mount, is a flight path type of design. So, and this is, if you've ever played World of Warcraft before, this is the same thing they use. Is basically you would go and there'd be a flight path or 2 or 3 within a node, and you would go to that particular NPC, and then that NPC would place you on a flying mount that you could not control. It basically paths you over to whatever node or whatever city or area that you decide to fly to. You would have to fly to that particular flight path manager or whatever within that node only. Aside from that, there are other ways, and we mentioned this in a different episode as well, about like maybe a small group of people will actually have a flying mount in game, but we were not going to talk about it on this episode. So, Bordy, what is your idea, or what are your thoughts on the way they've kind of chose to address fast travel by basically, having it very, very minimal or barely at all inside of the game?
I think it works for this game, man. I like it a lot. And I like the fact that teleportation style fast travel is tied to a particular node. So if you want that option on your server for whatever reason, whether it be for trade or for some other reason, just to move around the map faster, you have to build up a scientific metropolis node to get that benefit. I like that a lot, man. And I also like that there's not a lot of fast travel because Steven's very big on Zergs, and Zergs not being a thing to go Zerg down raid bosses and whatever. And this is a very good Zerg breaking mechanic, not having fast travel. Because I mean, like in ESO, for example, man, you have this, what do they call the shrines? We play the game for so long and I can't remember
way
what they're
shrines.
called. The way shrines. There we go. Dude, you see like just tons of people going to way shrines, going from way shrine to way shrine to way shrine, doing the anchors, right?
Yeah, one of the popular leveling methods inside of the game is actually using fast travel to kind of catch each dolmen or anchor, as it spawns inside of a zone. So
exactly, and I think that's I don't know how much I like that, right? Like I don't know that's kind of very mindless, boring gameplay. Like whenever you get on there and you go ride those waves of those people going around and killing that stuff, it's like, well, is this really what I want to be doing? Because I'm power leveling my character, but at the same time, am I really having fun? Because I would be willing to bet that most of the people that do that aren't really truly having fun. They're just doing it to get to the end game, to level up their character. And I don't think that's the type of gameplay that you really want in an MMO. I personally want to experience it from level 1 to 50 and experience the entire game. Now, maybe if I'm leveling alt or something, maybe so, and I can see that. But even then, it's like I don't know. I just don't like that mechanic. I think it takes away from the game. So I am all about not having fast travel and limiting it in this game. I think it works perfect for what Ashes is trying to do.
Yeah, I agree with you 100%. Fast travel kills the world feel, or basically, over time, people have kind of came to the conclusion, I think, or most people that enjoy like MMOs and the genre in general have come to the conclusion that the world feels bigger if you're forced to travel through it. And you talk about the exploration thing, or you mentioned exploration earlier on the podcast. Having to travel on your mount across to a certain particular area that maybe isn't linked by fast travel, or excuse me, flight path even, creates or forces you to kind of ride across a particular path or zone, and it forces you to interact with the NPCs. It forces you to be at risk for like PvP or open world PvP as well. And it forces you to explore, to search maybe a particular area that you've never been to before, and getting to see, like you mentioned, new landmarks, new NP or like mobs, or or maybe even locate a new piece of lore if they choose to go down the like lore book or whatever type path inside the game. So all of those things, forcing players to travel on ground or on foot through zones and experience those zones. It adds so much to the experience in an MMO that I think at this point it's the gold standard, right? I know some people enjoy the ability to like travel from here to there and everywhere all at once, but I feel like it severely takes away from the experience. And especially if you're going to do any type of open world PvP content, Bordy, you almost have to take away fast travel.
Yeah, absolutely. I couldn't agree more, man. And I think that open world PvP benefits tremendously for not having a lot of fast travel like that, for sure. Because what prevents somebody from running up to a way shrine? I mean, I guess unless they're in combat and they can't use the shrine at that point in time. But yeah, I think that not having it is great. I also think it's amazing for the economy too, right? Like, because in order to go up to the northern part of the map to buy a certain thing, you're going to have to actually run up there, or pay somebody or something to go get that item for you, or whatever, pay a premium or whatever. And I think that type of dynamic in the game is really important. It's going to be a lot of fun. I think it's going to be awesome to be limited in the fast travel that we have.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so do you think and then this will kind of like dive into fast travel further here. Do you think it's possible that fast travel, or adding fast travel to a game like Ashes of Creation, could actually, be a detriment to the game at this point, right? Because we have mentioned, the effect on open world PvP and the economy and all of those other things, and then one of the other things that's important and that Steven has addressed or mentioned is that it kind of kills that Zerg mentality where you can be anywhere at any time. And when there's like node wars going on, or there's like, if you happen to be aware of one of the transportation, help me think of the name. I'm drawing a blank here. The things that they use to transport large amounts of items across the
caravans.
The caravan, yeah. If you're aware of a caravan's location, being able to drop in on that caravan at will is really bad for the game. Like, because obviously they plan on caravans being a really large system inside of the game when it comes to like inventory management and selling and buying and purchasing and the economy and all of those things. So, I mean, at this point, they definitely can't. This is one of those things I feel like they can't go back on, right? They have to keep fast travel out of Ashes to maintain a lot of these systems inside of the game.
Yeah, I think their game is built around not having fast travel. I think that was one of the things that was really thought out, or at least it seems to be whenever you start digging into the mechanics of the game. It seems to be that fast travel was like, it's not something they can just put back in very easily now without disrupting a whole lot of other things that they are wanting to put in place. So to your point, I do think that if they were to come back and say, hey, we're putting fast travel back in the game for whatever reason, well, then I think that would be a detriment to the game if they left all the current systems that they have now in place. Because the way the PvP works, the way the caravan system works, the way the trading system works, the nodes work, and the way all of the systems together kind of mesh together, it just doesn't make sense to have a fast travel option that you can go from the very northern part of the map down to the very southern part of the map. Even with scientific nodes, I don't think you're going to be able to do that. It's going to be within the zone of influence of the scientific nodes. So it's going to be interesting, man, and it's going to create an interesting dynamic without having fast travel. And some people are going to probably just hover around one area of the map some people may not ever get out of the southern part of the map or whatever. Some people may not ever explore the rest of the map because it might take too long. I don't know. There may be no reason to do that. You might be in your node and have everything you want there. It's going to be interesting to see how people migrate around and how people play.
Yeah, it will be. And I think the node system is something that's hard to comment on how that will affect, player behavior and everything like that, because nothing this ambitious has ever been tried before in an MMO. So we'll see how that, kind of plays into, character behavior and agency and everything like that. And how it may force people to migrate. Maybe if they lose, if they're a citizen in a node and they lose their citizenship, maybe what's the best play after that, right? And maybe it does make sense to go find a more established node to be a part of, and then maybe people will be forced to travel across the continent or even over to the other continent to find a new home.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, so one thing we do want to mention, or the last thing is mounts. That they will not, what is your take on mounts? This is something we've talked about before on a different podcast, but just so we can, kind of add this in here real quick to travel across the map. What is your take on mounts and mount speed and all of those things that kind of can affect a way or the way a player can travel across the map?
I think it depends on how they're implemented, man, and what they're used for. I think mounts in some circumstances are fine, and it seems like Ashes of Creation's map is going to be large enough to support having mounts. But what you don't want with mounts is you don't want people, especially in open world PvP, you do not want people hopping on their mount and then running off, and then you not being able to catch them or have some sort of mechanic to knock them off their mount, or having it extremely hard to engage them in PvP or whatever, because then you're going to have everyone's just going to bypass that, right? Like everyone's going to hop on the map and they're just going to run from point A to point B. There's going to be no danger, and that's what you don't want. So I guess it just depends on how how that's implemented and how fast mounts go for one, and then the mechanics that you have to get knocked off of your mount. Or can you just summon your mount? Is it going to be like an ethereal mount? I'm not real sure. How do they work in Ashes? Do you know? Are they like ethereal mounts that you just summon, or are they more like BDO where you can?
I believe so. I believe there's something you will summon.
Okay.
Yeah. They've at least shown that to be the case inside of their playthroughs and their dev, updates and stuff like that. So.
Yeah, I've seen that. I've seen them do that in the videos, but I didn't know. I didn't know if that was the actual mechanic or not. So that'll be interesting, man. I don't know how mounts are going to play into it. I hope that there is a mechanic in there to prevent people from just, getting on there and running safely from one point to another.
Yeah, and you would assume because of the way that they've already kind of designed the caravan system for the caravans to take damage and eventually be destroyed. I think mounts hopefully they take the same direction for those as well. Whereas if you're taking damage in PvP, then eventually your mount fails you or you fall off and maybe go into like a CC'd state or something like that. That's the best way, or that's the only way in my mind to implement that mounts inside of PvP is you have to be at risk when you mount up. You have to be taking some sort of risk to, you can't just mount up at will, or maybe damage interrupts your ability to summon your map or whatever, or mount, excuse me. So we'll see what direction they choose to take in there. But I'm kind of on the same page as you. It can't be like the mount can't be, or the mount speed can't be to the point where you can just completely avoid any sort of interaction with players, especially when they have a flagging system. So even if you're not flagged, you are still at risk for getting PvP by somebody. So
yeah, exactly.
That's got to stay. That's got to stay. That's got to stay an option at all point in time. I think it adds so much to the gameplay to even, just that slight risk of being attacked by another player. I think adds so much to the experience when you're out in the open world and kind of doing your thing.
Mm-hmm. So before we wrap this up, I have one more question for you, Red.
Sure.
Without the exception of scientific nodes, because it's pretty unique how they're doing fast travel with scientific nodes. You have to build them up and all that jazz. So are there any other ways that you could see them implementing fast travel? Like, have you ever played a game that had a unique fast travel implementation in it other than just way shrines or just, teleporting here to there or whatever?
Well, the last one and the one that we kind of touched a little bit on is like airships or zeppelins, where
Mhm.
I would assume that that's the only way that we're going to be able to travel from continent to continent. If you guys haven't seen the map, you should definitely go over to the Reddit post, because there's two separate continents inside of the world of Ashes of Creation. So I would assume that there's some way to kind of path over to that other continent that maybe takes you. Maybe takes you out of the game or into a loading screen at some point, but maybe they don't do that. Maybe they do choose to kind of just make that one big flight path across the continent. But at that point, you'd wonder, like, well, how do I ever get another, flight path across the other continent if there isn't some way to get over there without, having to discover something. So
Yeah.
we'll see. I think I really want to see them to where, like, you have to get the flight path. Where you have to go talk to the NPC to open up that flight path. So that forces everybody to explore every part of the world, right? So then the more change you open up from flight path to flight path to flight path, the more, movement or, access to these particular zones you get. So I don't want to see them like give them all the flight paths to everybody from the jump. I definitely want to see them like, oh, well, I have to run up to the top of the continent to talk to that NPC to get that or get access to that flight path, to where now I can, travel as I want. But I think initially they need to force players to explore like that.
Yeah, I think so. That's just another form of progression within the game too, right? Is that it gives you something to work towards, is going and getting all the flight paths so that you can take those flight paths around. I like that idea. I hope that's something they do. So one of the most unique fast travel systems I've ever seen in a game was how Ultima Online did it. They had a recall system, which was pretty interesting. That may be something that I don't think Ashes will ever implement this, but it'd be interesting to see. So there was an item that you fast traveled off of. So you could go to a specific location on the map. You could mark what's called a rune, and the rune was lootable, right? So if you died, somebody else could take your rune and they could go to that specific location. But you had to cast a spell and target the rune, and then you'd go there. So it was called recall. So you could mark a rune and then recall to that location. That was pretty crazy, man. One of the most unique fast travel systems I've ever seen, and I don't know why more games don't do that. It was awesome, and I think that if runes were like a really rare item in the game, and people were marking those. And recall, one person could recall. There was another spell in there called gate that you could open up, and multiple people could go through the gate, but it was timed, so you couldn't send like tons of zergs, a whole zerg through there. But something like that, I think, would be pretty cool, man. Like a very rare item that you could cast a spell on, and you could go to that location. It was just worth a bunch of money, and if you died, you dropped the type of thing. I think that would be really cool.
That is a good idea. I've never even heard of anything like that in game. Obviously with World of Warcraft, you have a Hearthstone, and it's got like this massive cooldown, but it does allow you to kind of recall to whatever inn you set it at. And I think that's fine. Like that type of fast travel where it's like you have one recall every like 2 hours. I think that type of stuff is fine. I think it helps promote exploration in a way, because it does allow a player to be like, okay, well, I know that when I'm done, exploring, I always can get back to where my home is, where I need to be at the end of the day. Whereas sometimes, sometimes you don't want to, like, if you're going to log off in an hour, then like you're less hesitant to like run into a zone that you're in, you haven't explored yet, because then you would like be forced to log off like in maybe a restricted zone, or maybe a zone that you're at more risk of getting attacked in, or something like that.
Yeah, these were very specific locations. Like you could go anywhere on the map and mark a rune. It wasn't like at an inn or something like a preset location. It was anywhere, literally anywhere on the map. It was awesome, man. I thought that was really cool. I wish more games do that. But anyway, that was the most unique one I've ever seen for sure.
Yeah, and it obviously depends on how it's implemented, of course, because fast travel in general, I think, is kind of a bad thing. But if they can make it rare enough or whatever, then yeah, I'd be down to see them try different things to kind of add flavor or spice to the actual way you navigate the world. So,
yeah, and UO is common. I wouldn't want it to be common.
Yeah, definitely not. Yeah,
right, I'd want it to be some really rare thing you got. Yeah,
that'd be cool. Because just like the flying mounts, like there's only like X amount of people that get it in the entire server. So maybe dude, there'd be some sort of like attunement or something that maybe if you're I like this. I like this, dude. And this is something we haven't, discussed yet. But like warlocks in WoW being able to summon other players. Like they have one spell. They're the only class that can do it and can kind of create a gate that summons other players. Or mages get portals. I like that class identity. So if they can find a way to implement that type of behavior or that type of travel throughout the world, I'm all for that, man. If you choose like mage as your main class, you get this ability to open up a portal to like one of the main cities or across the continent or whatever. That type of stuff is dope, and I can get behind that 100%.
Yeah, that'd be cool. In UO, what people used to do is they would go into town and they would open up a gate and just in the middle of town, but they would open the gate up to like an incredibly dangerous location on the map. So people would go through there, and sometimes it'd be like on an island where the only way to get off that island is to recall. Well, those people would go through the gate and they just get stuck there.
All right, I'm 100% about trolling. So
yeah, it was pretty funny.
Yeah, I'm down for that, man. Anything like that kind of adds to a character's or a class's lore or ability to kind of do unique things that maybe aren't necessarily tied to combat, but they're still like really cool and useful. I can get behind that 100%. So yeah, man, great discussion tonight about maps and fast travel. Anything you want to add before we tie up the show?
No, I think that's it, man. It was a good talk.
All right, brother. Well, again, guys, go follow the Studio Loot Twitter. Go check out Ash's Fans. If you're a guild owner, go create your account to promote your guild over there. And dude, let's start. We can start next week. Let's make it a point to where we are going to promote someone's guild on the podcast next week.
That sounds good, man. Some people may think it's a little early, but it's never too early to start building up your community. You know what I mean? Never too early to start that.
Listen, to that random person who probably isn't a real person at all, dude, we're hyped about the game. It's okay. We want something to be excited about. And I think a lot of people share our excitement inside of the Ashes of Creation community. So
yeah, and there's playable alpha coming up soon that won't be under NDA. So there will be people forming guilds and all that stuff, sooner than on release.
And listen, Steven, if you listen to this, man, I don't know if you do or not, but there's two gentlemen here that we'd really like access to that, that alpha. So, if you're listening, man, we would love a bone. Or two bones, you know what I mean, since there's two of us. So, all right, brother. Why don't you tell people where they can find you on the internet?
Yeah, man, you can find me over at Twitter at the BDLG. YouTube is at the BDLG, and then Twitch is just BDLG. Then you can find me creating content at studioloot.com and then ashesfans.com.
And I'm Redbird with a Y. You can find me at Twitch and YouTube under the same name. Should throw me a subscription over my YouTube account. I'm trying to grow that bad boy up. Definitely check out Ash's Fans. We'll get more stuff over there. We're working on a mega post. We've said that multiple times, but we're getting closer into getting that tied up. We'll have that up for you guys soon. And then, of course, we appreciate everything you guys do for us, the listen, the follows. We really appreciate the support, guys. We're extremely excited to be part of this community, and we're thankful for all the support we get from you guys. So thank you. And we will see you on the next episode of Ashes to Go.